Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sipping Tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I'm Z. Hello, hello.
What's up,
Guten
y'all?
Tag. Is Guten Tag a
Sure.
greeting?
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Yeah. I don't.
That's the
Yeah,
beginning, Deutsch.
yeah. Sprechen Sie Deutsch. We gonna run with that today, though. What's up, y'all?
Okay.
It's summertime. It's summertime.
Summertime.
Hope y'all are doing well,
Summertime.
enjoying your Memorial Day festivities. Juneteenth
We,
is coming up
yeah,
next
I'm about to say
week.
we passed Memorial Day, didn't
Yeah,
we?
but did we talk about it in our last episode? Because I don't remember.
I don't know.
Are y'all wearing
Maybe.
y'all white after? I mean, y'all can wear y'all white now. Just saying.
I
School's
wear white
out.
when I want to.
I
I
know
ain't
that's
listening to
right.
them
I wish somebody
old.
would tell me you can't wear
I
white.
wear
Who
white
gonna tell
whenever I
me?
want.
Fashion police? But you gonna arrest me for
Mm-hmm.
styling and profiling? I think not.
Listen.
I think not.
Listen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so
So.
let me tell you, I forgot to say. Interesting thing I did 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new job, well, a new position,
Yes.
still with the
Mm-hmm.
same place, new position. I'm trying to navigate myself in this new position. And sometimes I dip and dab through the day. I try not to do it too much because this is a
Sometimes.
new position, but I
Yeah.
did take a little
Mm-hmm.
dip this week, and I
Mm-hmm.
went and got a laser hair removal, whatever,
How was
however that
that?
goes.
I've
So I
always
only
wanted
did it.
to do that.
So I did it for my underarms. It didn't hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but she did tell me that it was on the lowest setting that they have.
Uh-huh.
So I'm curious to see how this is gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a black owned it's a black owned business.
Oh.
Um, two black women own it.
Mm-hmm.
They had great reviews. I actually found them one day scrolling not TikTok, Instagram. And they had a promotion going where you can come in, get a consultation and your first free session.
Mm.
And so you only had to do like a $25 deposit just so that they know that you're coming. And then if you don't want to continue or whatever, then no
Yeah.
harm, no foul. And it took 5 minutes. Well, the whole process was probably like a half an hour because they do intake. They ask you the same questions that they ask you on the form.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me why was I there, and I was like, hair removal. Since I developed PCOS, my hair follicles have become
Right.
darker, and my hair is thicker, and so it
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot to get rid of it. And then I have hyperpigmentation and other things.
Right.
So, needless to say, they sold me on the package. I never buy packages with things like this. I'm like, I'm not buying no damn package. I come
Right.
when I want to come. But I wind up buying the package because it was relatively inexpensive when you look at the totality of
Overall.
it, the
Mm-hmm.
overall. So the package was like $740 something dollars,
Mm-hmm.
but they had a special and it was like actually 545, and then I had the $25, so they took it off. So it was 524, a total of 5 additional sessions after
Oh,
this. And
nice.
each session is 5 weeks in between each session. So when you look at it,
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? When you look at it, if I were to,
like 100 some a month.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
what is that? My Starbucks and parking for work,
That
and I ain't
part.
been going into the
Parking in
office.
DC in 2 days, that's
Yeah,
$100
like it's my
right there.
Starbucks or it's my Amazon fix. It's something. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I can afford that luxury in my life if I have to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of like an Amazon habit. And to be honest, I have an Amazon habit. I find myself shopping in my sleep. Um, I do. I went to my sister's house this weekend to see her before they went to Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sleep purchasing in my sleep. I sleep. I was buying stuff. So when I woke up in the morning, I
Yeah.
was looking through my emails, and I was like, "What the? What?" I said,
When
"Who
did I order
bought
that?
some?" I said, "Who bought something from from
Teen
Target
and
and from
Target.
Shein and Amazon?" I was like, "Oh, that
Temu.
was me."
All of them. We are not y'all are not sponsors for us, but hey, we'll
No,
take them.
yes, I was like, "Oh, that was me." So, but anyway, so it was. I'll keep you all abreast
Please
of the
do.
results. She said
Please
that I'm not going
do.
to see anything for the first session, really. She said maybe in about 2 weeks I might start to see hair fall out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she said they recommend a minimum of at least 6 sessions. She says some people who may be a little bit hairier probably have to do 12, depending on where you're trying to get the hair removed from. It may be a little bit more.
Mm,
So I'm just doing underarms, and honestly, like underarms was like a session was like 123, right?
mhm.
So I mean, is that really
What's
that
that?
bad? Like when I got my eyebrows done, when I got
Oh,
the
yeah, the
ombre
microblading.
eyebrow, like I spent like at the time her prices of course have gone up. When I went to her, she was just
Mhm.
starting doing it. And so
Oh.
I think I may have paid 350. Mikey actually went to her too. And I
Oh,
may
that's
have paid
right.
like $350 for it, or maybe a little bit more than that. And that was in 2020 or maybe even 2021. And
It
she
was
said, you're gonna need a touch up, and then you're gonna come back every like 1 to like I forgot, maybe 1 to 2 years. I have not been
uh
back to her since.
Oh, wow.
And my eyebrows look great. So that was an investment to me, right? Because how much
Yeah,
do you pay to get your eyebrows waxed,
girl.
and shaped? And I only
Yeah,
have
and
to clean
threaded
them
and
up.
stuff.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that's not
And
bad at all.
not bad at all. So yeah, so I'll keep you abreast of what this laser.
Sound like a plan.
Yeah. If y'all hear me a pause, it's because I'm sipping on a drink.
Yeah.
It
Mhm. You
ain't
and me
tea.
both.
Sorry, it ain't tea today.
Girl, right up in this here.
It's
Mhm.
liquor.
Little bit of tequila.
Yeah, oh well, that's what I'm
Tequila.
drinking. Some tequila.
Tequila.
I made a cocktail, a big batch from this
Oh.
Instagram video I saw. And so it's like pineapple juice, lime juice. It's a margarita, but it's pineapple
Uh-huh.
juice, passion fruit juice, tequila,
Uh-huh.
lime. I said lime, some agave,
Oh.
and it's supposed to be a splash of triple sec, but nobody in this house drinks triple sec, so I wasn't going to go to the store just to buy a bottle of triple sec for a splash. I
Yeah.
wasn't doing that,
And
so
I
I
can
ain't had
understand
that.
that. Well,
So
there's a bar over in this piece.
yeah.
Well, Lord Jesus, help us all. Let me tell you. So what's the
Oh, so
hot
we didn't.
tea?
Well, we didn't even say what the damn
Oh,
episode
we
was.
sure
I just
didn't.
been
Why
chit
you may
chatting.
have, why you may drink some tequila because of divorce, or tequila might have caused a divorce. Whichever way you take it, tequila can be involved in divorce, and it's over. Because it's over. So what's next? Navigating divorce. That's what we're talking about today.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. That's
Um.
what we're talking about.
Yes, we are. And so let's just get into some really quick hot tea, and then we'll get right into the topic. So the
Mhm.
hot tea that I have isn't really a lot. And I don't really want to spend too much time on it because we've all seen the video. I don't even know if the last episode we had,
I don't think
the
did
video
we.
even came out.
I don't think it was out yet.
I don't
I
think
don't
so
think
either.
so.
And
It was the charges and the vehement
yes,
denial.
yes. But now we see this man fully putting
Mm,
hands on this woman. And
right.
I'm just
In a
going to
towel.
say, yeah, that is the most, it just,
Abhorrent.
I don't even know how to even gather the words or the thoughts to go into the
Yeah.
disdain and disgust that I feel for that man. And then I look back at some of the things that he did, and I was like, yo, this man is diabolical. I specifically remember, and they were playing this video. I remember seeing a video. I mean, I remember him getting like the Lifetime Achievement Award or something at the BET Awards. And I
Mhm.
remember him basically saying, thank you to all of these people. And he said to Cassie, love to Cassie, whatever to Cassie, thank you for holding me down in the dark times, love, or whatever.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was like, that's kind of effed up because she's married. She left you to be with this man. She has 2 kids with this man. Why are you even talking
Oh
to
wait,
her?
this was
Like,
recently?
yes, this was like maybe 2 years ago. Um, and I was like,
Wow.
wow, like, and at this time, it wasn't even like all of the allegations that we see here. And apparently, that particular shout out prompted her to be like, enough is enough. Because when you read the suit, and then you
Yeah.
hear things, you know that he did that intentionally to mentally f
Mess
with
with
her.
her.
And
Right.
that is one of the more diabolical things I have ever like witness. And like when you go back and you just watch some of the things he
You
did, you're
see
like,
it with a different
wow,
lens.
you are trifling.
beyond,
You are
beyond.
right. And
I'm
I was
glad that Howard took their thing away from him, but I wish they would have. Part of me wishes the money they would have donated to intimate
a
partner
women's.
violence,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
instead of
Absolutely.
giving it back to him because he's just going to use it for his lawyer fees.
Hmm.
But like I wish that would have been redirected. But I mean, you don't. Not all money is good money, so I get that too.
Exactly. But still, so I mean, to tie this into what we're talking about, there are people who are currently going through these types of situations,
Mm-hmm.
who are trying to get out of a marriage, who are, divorcing, in the
Right.
process of
Preparing
divorcing,
to divorce.
preparing to divorce, and they are in these very high volatile
Mm,
situations
yeah,
that can be very dangerous and deadly for some
for
people.
some
And
people.
then, but also looking at the type of person on the other end, like this narcissistic, like
Yes.
diabolical,
Conniving.
maniacal, conniving, just like piece of shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
And to know that she went through all that, and then to read subsequently, like she was like addicted to drugs, and she had to go to like, you know,
Rehab.
rehab, and she had to go to intense therapy to kind of process the trauma, only for this man to then traumatize you again by mentioning you, knowing what
Yeah.
he's done to you. You understand what I'm saying?
They
Like,
pick at people. I mean, we talked about that with the whole narcissist. If you're a malignant or covert, they truly revel in picking because it's all
mm-hmm,
about control. And you could
mm-hmm.
be living your life, minding your business, and living on your side of the house, and here comes somebody trying to pick at you, and you literally over here minding your business, sipping your tea, drinking your water, and minding your business.
Business. And it's sad that there are people who are currently going through that, who have gone through that, who may
Mhm.
experience that haven't gotten to that level yet. Um, and my prayers and my thoughts still go out to her and her family, because I know that reliving that trauma, like it's one
Mhm.
thing, like for people who've been in abusive relationships, whether it's financial, emotional, physical, mental, you sometimes you go through those things in private, right?
Yes.
Your trauma isn't on display for everyone to see, and so you
Correct.
have to still process that trauma, right? You have to process the trauma of what
Mhm.
you experienced, and how you the guilt and the shame you feel surrounding those experiences.
Right.
But then to have that trauma then display for the world to see and
You're
comment
reliving
on,
it. And then
reliving it,
nobody believed her.
right? But even in that, still people questioning, well, what did you do to make
Yes.
him react that way? Or,
Yes.
well, you stay with him, so I don't feel
People
sorry
have
for
no
you.
idea when people say that, "Well, why'd you stay? Why didn't you just leave? Why did she just not like, why didn't you?" You never know what people truly are going through behind closed doors leading up to these and it while in these traumatic experiences. And most people will never divulge everything that goes on
No.
ever because it's too traumatic to relive it, which is why people have suppressed memories for years, decades,
Well,
you
that's
know?
also why I feel like I tell you my 80/20 rule. Like, I feel like your tribe, your crew, overall, on average, you know about 80% of what goes on in their daily lives. There's
Facts.
20% that they don't tell you. And that varies, right? Depending on
Mhm.
your closeness with that person. Like, you can have a friend that knows about 95% of the shit that you've been through in life, but
Yep.
there's 5% that you're just like, I ain't sharing that with nobody,
Nobody.
right?
That's
And then
that's stuff
there's
that take it to the grave.
right. Then there's friends that you have that you feel like, well, this person is a little judgmental. I don't feel comfortable with sharing
Mhm.
all this because I don't want to hear how they're going to look at me or perceive me. And I'm just only going to tell them 50%. So on
Right.
average, I feel like you know about 80% of what goes on. So she told us, feel 80%
Yes.
of what actually happened in that relationship. And I truly believe there's about 20% that she's just not going to share
Or ever.
because of the extent of depravity that was associated with that, because of that man. And
Yes.
when you read the stuff that he went through, to know that it's probably more things that are worse than that. He
Mhm.
belongs in the depths of hell. And I don't want
Below.
to below. And I
Hanging
am
out with
team,
Lucifer.
listen, I'm team woman all day, right?
Mhm.
I also am, my background. So thought process is very analytical, right? I can have a conversation about these things without getting emotionally invested and looking at it from a very fair and balanced standpoint. There's nothing fair and balanced about this. There's nothing you
At
can
all.
tell me that makes this fair and balanced. There's nothing that you can tell me that will bring this man
If you
into a
can call
different
him that
light.
person.
Right. That for me, the only conversation that I can have that I can say is fair and balanced is I don't think that this is a situation where with R. Kelly, in a sense that you throw the music, like for a lot of people, it's like, I don't want to listen to his music. I can't be anywhere. I don't want to listen
Right.
to it. And I think people aren't saying that with Diddy's because he's a producer. He was the man behind it. I'm
Right.
not going to stop listening to Mary J. Blige. I'm not going to
Right.
stop listening to Faith
Yeah.
Evans.
And you heard about the stuff with that too?
I
There's so
don't.
much stuff. Oh my
It
gosh, there's
is.
so much
It is.
stuff. There's
It's a
so
lot. We could go
much.
down the rabbit hole, and I'm
Girl.
not going to do it today.
Oh my
Maybe we'll have a
goodness.
pop culture segment and just talk about all the trash and rumors and
Yes.
everything that we've been hearing
Cause
over the last
honey, my
6
sister and I were
months.
talking about that, and I was like, my sister was like, "Were you watching that?" I was like, "I normally don't, but I got hooked on one, and I went down a whole damn rabbit hole."
Yeah, you'll
And
get
I was
sucked into
like,
it.
something about Jaguar Wright and her, all
Oh
the stuff
God,
that
please don't
she.
bring her up. Jesus.
Woo! I was like,
Like,
oh my goodness.
not to take the Lord's name in vain, but so I know somebody who knows her personally,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not gonna put that person on blast, but I know somebody that knows her personally, and they say she is like where there may be truth, there's also a lot of fabricated stories because of where her mental state is, and that she
Uh-huh.
really does need to be under psychiatric care. But there's no one, and I think it's due to the death of her son that she just kind of lost her mind.
Yeah.
I believe that there are things that are true,
Mm-hmm.
but because
Because you
where there's
know
smoke, there's
some
fire.
stuff that you're just kind of like, wow.
Right.
But
Like
like
I
you said,
feel
I
like,
agree with that. I could
yeah,
see where people would you could say that. Because
like did
sometimes
Jay
I've
Z,
watched some stuff, I'm like, huh?
but you're not even in the like what I know and having conversations with people who are in the industry. What I know is once you're out, you're out. They're not, you're out. Like it's like the mob. They're not going to sit
Yeah.
there and still have you involved in conversations. And here's the thing: if you're not involved, it's like whisper down the lane. By the time it gets to you, the story is going to
Taking
sound
on a whole other
exactly.
shape.
So I don't. I this is one of the things that I think I have an issue with when it comes to all of these things. I never wish for the downfall of anybody, right?
Right.
When like people are saying, "Oh, Jay-Z's next," I'm not sitting around here saying I hope he's next. I'm sitting
Mm-hmm.
saying I hope that he doesn't have any skeletons in his closet that would then bring another black man
Right.
into this negative spotlight, and then we have to do what
Right.
is necessary to remove him.
From
And
that.
like I don't wish that on my people, but once you have shown and proven to be what
That.
is known, it is what it is. I've never been a fan of Puffy. I've always looked at him side-eyed, so it was never like him getting knocked down
Mm-hmm.
isn't like something that I was like, oh wow, that's just, it was like, oh well,
I
the
mean,
chicken
if you
stopped moving the
watch
roost.
any of like making the band stuff, like if you people like think back and look at it with a different set of
Oh,
eyes, you're like,
absolutely.
oh, well, he was kind of
He was
he
always an
always
ass.
been shady
He's
and stuff
always
like
been some
that.
shit. Yeah, so it's kind of like, um, but that's all I have to say about him. And then on the
Yeah.
flip side, you have someone like Will Smith, who is still showing that he has box office appeal with Bad
Mm-hmm.
Boy 4 just now coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have these people that want to keep bringing up the Chris Rock slap. Let me be clear. One, if you are not of the culture, I don't give a shit what you're talking about. I
Right.
don't want to hear how we as a community, if you're not in the community, should be
Thank
reacting to what
you.
he did to Chris Rock. Don't want to hear it. I firmly believe that the majority, overwhelming majority of our community sides with Will Smith. Personally, that's just my personal belief.
Right.
Yes, there's a faction that just like why he do that, da 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 da. But there's
Yeah.
an overwhelming, right? Two things can be true. Will Smith can be a great person.
Yeah.
He can really be a nice person. And
Mm-hmm.
also, he can be somebody who did something terribly wrong in the
Correct.
worst possible moment at the worst possible
Little
time.
time.
Two
Right.
things can be true. Why? Because we are not perfect people. I've never heard anything negative about Will Smith. And then as soon as this happened, people were like, oh, he did this and he did this and he did this. Well, why didn't you say that then? And then when you look at the people who are saying it, you're like, oh, I understand now why you're saying that.
Right. Who's the
I
messenger?
see right through that. So that's one
Right.
thing. Then when you're in the community, if you have a voice like somebody like Stephen A. Smith, who says he needs to apologize to the black community, but he don't need to apologize to nobody.
Why
We
would he
all
need to apologize to
understood,
the black
right?
community?
We all understood in one side or the other why that man did that. He
Right.
ain't got to apologize to me. That man apologized to Chris Rock multiple times. He reached out to that man to say, let's have a conversation. Chris Rock wasn't having it, and that's fine. You don't have to accept anybody's
At
apology. We've
all.
talked about this many times. If you don't have to accept anybody's apology, somebody
Nope.
can treat you wrong, and you can say, cool, you stay over there,
I'm gonna be over
and
here.
I'm gonna be over here. And I
Mhm.
think that that's where Chris Rock is. He's like, I don't want to. Now, I don't like Chris Rock. Don't particularly care for Chris Rock. So for me, he can slap him again for all I care. He can slap him twice. He can slap him multiple times. I don't give a shit because I'm not a fan of Chris Rock anymore. And I'm not a fan of him because he's not a fan of black people. But if you really paid attention to what he has been doing over the course of his career, you would understand that. And you wouldn't be so quick to side with
You have to
with
but
him.
yet people don't check for context. They
No,
just check for what's hot on the block
right.
at the
Chris
moment.
Rock exactly. Chris Rock himself has said a joke where I wouldn't do it, but I understand. I wouldn't
Right.
personally be in a situation where I would slap somebody and embarrass myself, but I understand why
Right.
Will
Because I
Smith
can
did it.
see that being a joke about
Right?
had it happened to somebody else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But because
Totally. That would be
it's
part of he would have leveraged that in his material, intertwined it in
mm-hmm,
his material, and people would have been like, "You right."
right.
Either
And
one way or
here
the other.
exactly. And here's the funny thing about it. If Chris Rock really was a stand-up, like if Chris Rock really was roles reverse, Chris Rock slapped Will Smith, Chris Rock would be vilified. Why? Because he's not he's not an overall likable individual.
Mm. A lot of people
Will
don't
Smith
take
has
to his
been
comedy. His
right.
comedy.
Will Smith has been an overwhelmingly likable individual for decades. So that's why
Decades.
people were so shocked that he would do that, right? Like, but if Chris Rock did it, you would be like, oh, well, is it really out the norm? Like, not to say if it's out the norm, but I don't think people would be like,
In
I don't think people would
uproar.
be as, yes,
It
I
wouldn't
don't
be
think
as an
people would
uproar.
be as like this, like, the dialogue that we're having about it would be as
Right.
intense as it is because it was Will Smith that did it. So people have been saying that he needs to apologize. Why? Obviously, it ain't affecting his pockets because how is Bad
It sure
Boys
ain't.
doing better than Mad Max and what other movie came out recently? There was like another
Girl,
movie
I
that
don't
came
even
out,
know.
The
I ain't been
Fall
watching
Guys.
TV.
Like Will Smith basically saved the summer. You're welcome.
Yeah, he did. You're welcome,
You're welcome.
studio. Say thank you and let's keep it moving. But they said this is what he was gonna have to do. He was gonna have to come out with a movie that's gonna kind of take over everything that's going on, and folks would just be like, "This is what I need."
Right,
And
right.
Will Smith did what? Okay. Anyway, did y'all go see Bad Boys? Like I feel like they timed it.
Yeah.
Whoever his publisher, whoever his people are, were like, it's summertime, the election about to come, folk want to stop and think about other stuff. Let's put
Mm-hmm.
out Bad Boy and keep it moving because from what I
Yeah.
heard, it's probably pretty good.
It is. I've heard really good things about it.
I've
And
heard really good things about it.
if you are a Will Smith fan and you followed his career at all, it used to be a Big Willie summer. Every summer, this man will come out with a blockbuster. You had
Yeah.
Independence Day. You had Men in Black.
Oh,
You had
iRobot.
Bad Boys. You had like this man is known to command the summer blockbuster. So,
Yeah.
what you thought it was going to change?
Come on now. He
He's
took a little
probably the
time off.
last right. He's probably the last true movie star. Because remember, there's a difference, and we probably have an episode about this. There's a difference between an
Mhm.
actor and a movie star. He definitely is one of the last few movie
For
stars.
sure. For sure. On multiple levels.
Yeah.
Multiple levels.
So
Multiple
missing you with all
genres.
that, right? That he still needs to
Multiple.
apologize. That man
I
and
don't
honestly,
care. That's not my
I don't
business.
care.
Not my
It's not.
circus, not my monkeys. I don't give a hoot nanny. Okay?
And there it is. So
Don't give a
let's
hoot
go ahead.
nanny.
Listen. So let's go ahead because we are already our producers in here, and so when she's not here, we tend to go
Overrun our
way
time.
over.
That's
We
okay though.
already 25 minutes in, so let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back with the topic of the day.
And we're back. So, like you said, this topic today. So it's over. What's next? Navigating divorce, right? So, we're tackling this subject. It affects so many people, and it's often difficult to talk about. Divorce is a significant life experience that brings a whirlwind of emotions, challenges, and changes. Most people nowadays have divorce parties. People say, I'm happily divorced. It's not as taboo as it used to be. I'll say that. Whether you're considering it, going through it, or helping someone you care about navigate their way, understanding the intricacies of divorce is crucial because there are a lot of nuances to this, of seen and what's unseen. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about the various aspects of divorce, from emotional and the psychological impact to the legal processes, very lightly. We're not lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Reef is. I ain't no lawyer. But you know what I'm saying. And and talk about how to cope and rebuild your life during and after divorce. It's more than just the end of a marriage. I think people sometimes forget that
Mm,
it's not just the end of a marriage. It's a journey, can lead to personal growth, healing, and definitely, on the brighter side, new beginnings. Good, bad, or indifferent, there's still going to be new beginnings when it's over. So
mm-hmm.
before, we kind of go into it, just to acknowledge that this is a very deeply, deeply personal and sensitive topic for a lot of people. This is a trigger warning for some that may be going through it, um, and just being mindful of how that may affect. Remember that you're not alone. There's resources out there that can support and help you through this, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But just out of courtesy and just, we don't want to make light of it. We may say some things. Sometimes you have to laugh through the pain, but it's not to make light of what anybody may be going through at this current time. Sometimes people just, all they need to do is laugh through the divorce. That's how they get through it. So, and it's just kind of thinking about, well, how does this all happen? What are some common causes of divorce?
Right. And I have a friend who just recently went through a divorce, and I'll say everybody processes divorce differently.
Right.
I think the way she processed her divorce is definitely different than the way I've seen other people process the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's not to say that it's bad, right, wrong, or indifferent,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just to put that out there to say that there's no one surefire way to one talk about such a difficult topic and
Right.
have this conversation, especially in situations where we're not going through it,
Mm-hmm.
but can still understand
And
it
empathize.
because we know people in proximity.
Mm-hmm.
um so and Natalie's an empath, and I'm trying to be that. I'm sorry, I try, I really do, I really do. I'm raising a beautiful empath, but I just don't know where she got it from because it ain't me. But
That's funny.
I mean, I'll just as a quick story. So we noticed a car accident. Like we witnessed a bad car accident, like right in front of us.
Mm.
And she was intent on coming home and FaceTiming Galen's mom, my husband's mom, to get her to pray for the people who were in the car accident.
Oh, Charlie Boo.
Yes, my baby's an empath.
Oh.
And then she kept saying how sad she felt about it and
Mm-hmm.
how like how scared it was making her. And there was another situation that I won't get into because it's too long of a story, where she keeps thinking about it. And she's like, this made
Right.
me so sad. It makes me so sad. And seeing those people in the car accident is so sad. And she's like, maybe I need to go somewhere to talk about it. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like some place that'll make me feel better. I was like, a
Oh.
therapist? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, 6 years old. She knows that therapy works.
It
We're
does.
trying to get some of y'all to understand it.
Right. Can we please, please, please? When I used to work in the psychiatric hospital for children, I work with children between 3 and 9 years old, and some of those kids were well on their way to understanding the benefits of therapy.
Listen,
And when I was
listen. I'm
devising
like,
their treatment plans and having to sit down and talk to them, some of them were so frank and so blunt about, yeah, I'm sad today because my brother punched me in the knee. What?
yeah.
Okay. And I wanted to cock him and punch him in the throat. But, I'm here to talk about it, and this is how I feel. Oh, okay, Mr. 6-year-old.
Listen,
You
if
know?
we if Charlie is any indication, the kids are gonna be all right. The
Yeah,
kids are gonna be all right.
exactly. They're gonna be
But
A-okay.
yes, but just going back into what we were talking about, like the common causes of divorce, right? There are a lot of causes. Some of us just
Mhm.
focus on the two big ones.
Yes.
Well, maybe even three, well, two big ones, which is infidelity,
Mhm.
that's cheating, extramarital affairs, and financial problems. But there are many other
Multitude.
reasons, multitude. So one of the first ones that we came across is like communication breakdown. And I feel like communication is big, right? And I feel like communication
Huge.
is the foundation and the cornerstone of probably why all these other things happen, right? Because when
Yes.
you lack communication,
You
you kind
can't.
of lack discernment, and then all these other things kind of fall apart, right?
It goes
You
to
have
hell.
it does unresolved conflict. So think about it. If you have
Mhm.
financial problems and you're not communicating well,
Yep.
you're going to find yourself in financial situations that are not
Mhm.
good for a
For
marriage.
sure.
Um, if you can't discuss your needs with your partner in terms of
Yes.
intimacy, you're going to have problems in those areas. So I feel
Right.
like poor communication is definitely the cornerstone, the foundation of
All of a lot
many
of
of
these.
these causes,
Yeah.
right? We talked about infidelity. We know what infidelity is. Some of
Mhm.
us have experienced infidelity in before marriage. Unfortunately, there's probably some of us who have experienced infidelity during a marriage. And some of
Mhm.
you may be listening like, yeah, bitch, that's why I'm getting divorced.
Right now.
And for
Shit.
that, I understand. But financial problems are big. I feel like a lot of times people don't have constant, regular communications about finances.
Mhm.
I think finances need to be discussed at the beginning, the middle, and towards the end. You should
Yes.
always be talking about what the financial issues are in your family and in
Mhm.
your household construct, because things change. People lose
And it's gonna
jobs.
come up in the divorce. Trust and
Yes,
believe.
it will. And understand this. Whatever you, and I'm just speaking for what I know in this area, but I'm pretty sure it's for a lot of states. Whatever you have obtained during your marriage is considered
Mm.
marital property.
Hello. A lot of people don't realize that.
They don't.
I know you bought that lawn chair and you think it's your lawn chair. Guess again.
Guess
It's
again.
our lawn
It's
chair.
I bought a new vehicle. Oh, you did? Well, we
It's
bought a new vehicle.
we bought a new vehicle. Uh-huh. That just know what you're walking into, y'all. Doesn't
Yes,
matter.
it's
You
marital
know,
property. If you
we took
purchase
it,
it,
you took a trip. Guess what? We took a trip with those
right.
finances.
Exactly. So you have to be very mindful of that. And having these conversations, talking about the different spending habits.
Mm-hmm.
What are your financial priorities? If you're not having these constant conversations, it's going to cause a strain on your marriage,
Yep.
and it's going to lead to frequent arguments, resentment, and
Mm-hmm.
what ultimately divorce.
Yeah. The
We
resentment's a
talked.
big one though. That's
Yes.
very insidious and it creeps in.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of intimacy, I I need to stress this, because when we talk about lack of intimacy, a lot of us attributed to infidelity. And lack of
Mm-hmm.
intimacy isn't
Not.
always about the physical
Nope.
aspect of it. It's emotional, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you need an intimacy is like telling me about your day,
Yeah.
you
What's
know?
going on? How was
Where's the
work?
emotional connection that we have
Correct.
outside of our
Yeah.
children, outside of, you
What
know what I
got you
mean?
into the like, I think people forget they don't realize the intimacy that was there at the beginning, which is what got you to the point to wanna be married in the first place.
For some
People felt
people,
it for some people, that's those feelings and stuff, and you talked about it, and some people wanted to be together, and they, "Oh, I came home and I told you, this is the first you're the first person that I wanna tell." Those are forms of intimacy that I don't
yeah.
think people realize that it is intimacy. And then
And
when those things stop happening, there's a gap,
Right.
you
No,
know.
absolutely. And I'm no expert, but if I had to guess, just from experience over, the course of my life, having friends, talking to women, I would think that the lack of intimacy is probably one of the biggest reasons why some women decide to file for divorce, because we are
Yeah,
very big on emotional connection. It's
yes,
not always about physical for us. For us, we want to feel safe. Lack of intimacy makes us feel
yes.
unsafe.
That whole safety thing, folks don't understand that. Yeah, you'd be surprised when you see some marriages and how they get through infidelity or financial strain. There's an element of that partner that may still let that person feel safe, so they feel
Mm-hmm.
safe enough to return to try to make it work. If they don't
Absolutely.
feel safe, it's like, "You know what? Bunk this, I'm out,"
Absolutely.
because there's no
And
connection.
not right. And I think it's also important to say that a lot of these kind of are interwoven with one another.
Correct.
You could be experience infidelity in your marriage and find out about that infidelity through financial problems, because you're trying to figure out where all this damn money going, and you realize that
Hello,
this
preach.
person has purchased
Mm.
a apartment for their
Has
side
a
piece.
whole other has a whole you know what, it was funny. There was something that, I think, one of my girlfriends was over here, and we were watching Bridgerton, and, you watch Bridgerton? I can't remember. Anyway,
Yes,
they
I
were
do.
t so there's this part where the son this was earlier because I was trying to rewatch it because 'cause I'm behind, and the guy goes to this event where he sees his mistress singing, and the person that I was with talking to said, I think I'd rather be a mistress sometimes because marriage just seems there's too much in it. But then I had said to her, well, if you're the mistress, she's like, because then if that man has enough money to take care of me and set me up, and then I don't have to deal with all his extraness and all the stuff that the wife has to deal with, and that's okay. But then I said to her, so, well, what? So the wife is now having to deal with the financial strain or draw or lack of that should be going into that household because now that individual has decided to take the marital funds and put them on other people outside the house, which is taking
Yep.
away from the marriage. And
Yep.
you really have to think about, the person was like, well, but then, you're set up. I said, but you're taking money out of the house away from the wife. Yes, some people justify having a mistress because they have enough money. But then if you have enough money to have a side piece, take that money and just divorce their ass. Pay for a lawyer and divorce. That's what I'm
Listen,
saying. Like seriously,
I
just take the money. If you can spend money on another person outside of your household, you have enough money to get a lawyer. You have enough money to file for divorce. Do you not? I would think so.
yeah, I would think so. But two plus two don't always equal four to some people.
It
So
don't. It equals 7,500.
yeah, yeah. Um, so another thing, growing apart. A lot of couples grow apart because they
Hmm.
no longer share common interests, goals, or values.
That's not uncommon.
It's not really uncommon. Um, However, I feel like even with growing apart, I feel like so some of these I feel like, and I'm not an expert. I'm just speaking from research. I think some people go into marriages sometimes not even having these discussions
I agree with you wholeheartedly,
originally.
150%.
You understand what I'm saying? I feel
Because
like a
some
lot of
people just
people,
want the wedding and not the marriage, so they haven't had these
right,
conversations about what their interests are to even know what they are growing apart from.
right, because you know, if you are someone who enjoys um football
Mhm.
and you are someone who hates sports, that
Mm,
was something you knew you should have known
before.
in the beginning of your marriage.
Should
Now,
have.
if you know this person is a sports head and they like to travel with their team, they like to
Mhm.
go to certain games, away games, they like to do that. You have a problem with it. Did you not know that this was their interest
Y'all should have talked
prior?
about that.
Yeah.
Should have.
Um, and I feel like yes, you can share common goals, interests, definitely common goals.
Please try a little bit. It
And I
made
feel
me
like
think,
values.
what was that movie? Runaway Bride,
Yeah.
where she just kept assuming all the interests of all the people that she was running away from. And that because of that, she could never get to the altar because she really didn't sit and take a look about the common interests that really weren't common for her. She just
Right.
felt that they were common.
Exactly. And so I would say like values definitely, goals definitely,
Yeah.
right? Values, like I think it would be hard pressed to have a Bernie Sanders liberal marry a Trump Republican.
Ooh, yeah.
That's different values.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
you
what
are
was that
someone,
one conservative
oh yeah, the guy, yeah, I
and
know
who was and his
Carvel,
wife was
yeah.
in the
Hmm.
his wife was in the Trump whatever. Anyway, well, though, what do you call him?
Well,
45. I'm
back in the
sorry.
day, like in the 90s, I remember that couple where she was a Republican and she was like a Bush Republican and he was a Clinton Democrat.
Mhm.
But even with that, that's not that start. I mean, it's a difference, but when you break
They
it
all
down to
hang
the
out
nuts and
now. I mean,
bolts,
they be
right?
hanging out. So it's
It's not that different.
right.
Um, so I just feel like if you start to feel that gradual drifting apart, there are things you can do about it. And you'll know if you are drifting apart because you'll start to feel lonely and there's a lot of dissatisfaction. I feel like the sharing common interests, I think it is good to share some common interests, but I feel like
Mhm.
you also need your own separate
For
interests
sure.
so that you can keep some of your individuality through the
Yes, it's
marriage. Because I feel
important.
like that is also an issue. Like
A
if you are
problem.
not an individual, if you depend too much on your partner, that can cause a lot of
Yes.
issues as well. So, substance abuse. Listen,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
real. We've all seen Intervention. Well, maybe not all of us, but if you haven't, you'll get it
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
that is one of the things that it's just like that is
Yeah.
definitely going to cause a lot of challenges in your marriage. Financial.
Mm,
I mean, clearly, if somebody's an alcoholic or a drug addict, where that money's going to their drinking and their drug habit,
right.
right?
Yeah. Rather, and
Um,
at that point, they don't. When you have a substance use disorder, I mean, it's better understood now than before. There was a thought that you could control it, but your body actually chemically adapts to needing that
right.
every day.
Every
So,
day,
yeah,
every
every day.
day.
So you can't just stop, and then you're using money to support that habit. Like, you literally just some people can stop cold turkey, but it's not common.
No, not
And the
common at all.
financial drain that leads to infidelity, like, it's connected to everything. It can be
Hmm.
connected to everything.
And it can be difficult for a spouse to cope with because it is an
Yeah.
addiction and it is something that people do have to, like, it's a disease. And so I think sometimes we look at this type of a disease as something that people shouldn't put up with. And why would you want to deal with someone who's a drug addict? Why would you want to deal with someone who's an alcoholic?
Mhm.
Um, and those are valid points, but I feel
Right.
like if you are someone who understands that it's disease and you want to be there for that person, it is
Mhm.
difficult to kind of
It is.
stay by somebody's side when they're going through that, right? Because we
Mhm.
know substance abuse can lead to erratic behavior,
Yep.
financial issues like we spoke of earlier, and emotional instability. And to be living on constant eggshells every day is gonna take a toll on
Yeah.
anybody, even if you're
Mhm.
not married. You know what I mean? Like that the
Any
family
relationship.
construct. Yeah. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, substance abuse is definitely a big one. And the next big one is domestic violence. And we talked about
Mhm.
that a little bit earlier with like the Diddy situation. Domestic violence can be in multiple forms. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can
Mhm.
be psychological, financial.
Mhm.
It's serious and it's dangerous in a marriage. And it
Right.
it creates an unself and an unhealthy environment. I'll say this, and I guess I am an empath because I'm about to tell you a quick story that really gutted me. Um, and I'm trying to be as vague as possible. Well, I don't
Mhm.
have to be that vague. So I had a conversation with my sister recently about someone who went to a young man who goes to my nephew's high school, and he's a senior, and he just declared where he's going to college. And they do
Mhm.
this big thing, and they put it in their school newsletter, and they have a picture. They submit a picture, and then they talk about where they're declaring. And the boy sent a picture of him and his mom. Well, my sister told me his mother had just died 2 weeks prior to that. And I was like, oh wow, well, how did she pass away? She got married. She got remarried. So she was married to the boy's father. They got divorced. She met a man. She got remarried. After a year of being married, she decided that I got to get a divorce because he started to exhibit signs of domestic violence. And this one particular weekend, the boy went to stay with his father. And the ex-husband came to their house, pushed in the air conditioning into her bedroom, and stabbed her and killed her.
Lord. Oh my God.
So I say this, and I'm not saying this. I want people to understand that I don't take this lightly at all. The most dangerous time for a woman in an abusive relationship is when she decides to leave.
Yes.
That is the
People
most
don't
dangerous
understand.
time.
People have no idea. This takes up to 7 times for a woman to leave, or a man, depending on what the intimate partner situation is, at least 7 times to try to leave because of those situations, and by evidence of what we saw for some of us that saw the tape with Cassie. Because she tried to leave when he clearly was not, when he didn't have anything on him, and she tried to leave, and look what happened, and that was on camera. So people really need to be sensitive. Well, they're like, well, why didn't you just leave? It's not that easy. It is not that easy.
If you've read her suit, she tried to leave this man multiple times. Multiple times. And people are like, well, she just left. Do you understand the type of money that man has?
Sure. The reach.
This man blew up a car of someone that she decided to date when they were on a hiatus. He blew up this man's vehicle. What the hell do you think she thought he would do to her?
Not to mention all the tapes that he recorded while she was under the influence of substances.
Come on now. Don't
come on now. Under the parameters and the situations. Even when it's like, how do y'all think she could have left, knowing that's hanging over her head?
Yeah.
Seriously.
So I'm just saying, if you know someone who's currently in a abusive relationship and you want them to get divorced, please understand that it is easier said than done. And you just need to be there, support them, understand that they're doing the best that they can, and they are trying to leave an unhealthy and unsafe environment safely.
Safely is key. People don't understand that.
Right.
Usually it's when those women leave. When you hear about domestic or intimate partner in situations where people end up dead,
it's usually when they've left. Yeah,
they've already left.
They've left.
And started a whole new life.
Yeah. That's usually when it happens. Again, that's what happened to the young man's mother. She had already left. Had a restraining order against this man and everything. So just understand that one in particular, please be mindful and careful about your approach.
Please.
When you know that someone's trying to leave a marriage and there's domestic violence involved.
And there's that 20% that they don't tell you. So you don't know what that 20% could involve, why they haven't left yet.
Hello.
Just saying.
Unrealistic expectations. I feel like this one is definitely not a very heavy loaded one, but there are people who have very unrealistic expectations about marriage, and because of those unrealistic expectations, it's going to lead to some disappointment and frustrations.
Right.
Because the expectations
about that before.
Right. I feel like one of the unrealistic expectations that kind of cause partners to drift apart, creates lack of intimacy, etc. I feel like once children are introduced into a relationship, I feel like if you aren't two people who are heavily invested and rooted in the success of your relationship, if you are two people who are still very centered into self, you are not going to survive having children. Because when a woman has a child, and I'm only speaking about this because in this capacity, in this manner, is because I'm a woman who's had a child, so I understand the changes that a woman goes through hormonally. Like takes years for women to get back. And some women don't ever get back.
Nope, not ever.
Hormonally, emotionally, your brain don't work the same.
5 years. It takes I did my thesis
5
on
years.
that.
Yeah.
Postpartum depression can last up to at least 5 years.
Right.
At least.
And so if you are a partner who does not understand this and you unrealistically expect that after 6 weeks, she's going to want to start having sex with you again, she's going to want to be up, taking care of you, cooking, taking care of the home, taking care of your child, and not have any problem with it, then you're sadly mistaken.
Please, thank you. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yes.
On the flip side, if you married someone who, if you're a woman and you married a man who has a normal 9 to 5,
Mhm.
he could be in a trade. He doesn't, let's say he's not pulling in the 6 figures. He's not financially where you want you would like. Stop
Mhm.
thinking this man's supposed to take you to
Dubai.
5-star
Michelin
vacations
restaurants.
every year.
That's not realistic.
And y'all supposed to be driving a Maserati when
Come
you
on
got
now.
ramen noodle money. Come on now.
Right? Please.
That's
What's that? Champagne
unrealistic.
wishes and caviar dreams on ramen noodle budget.
Yeah, that's unrealistic. And then you put that pressure on that man, and he's like, I'm doing the best that I can.
Fact.
What more do you what do you like, Tyrese? What do you
You
want
want
from
from
me?
me?
What more do you want from me? Like, seriously. Like,
Right. Come
like,
on, people. Let's be
but
realistic.
when those expectations aren't met, it's gonna cause dissatisfaction and conflict. And maybe one of the ones that's unrealistic for some people not. If you're somebody who's like, I have a healthy sexual appetite, I need to have sex every single day, at least
Mhm.
twice a day.
Don't
And the
marry
other person is like,
someone.
are you kidding me?
Right.
Is that unrealistic? For some people, it may be.
Exactly. You gotta think about it.
But that's the conversation you should have had at the beginning of the marriage.
That part. That part right there.
So
Unless your marriage is arranged, I don't know how you don't have those conversations at some point.
it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon.
I know it's not uncommon, but I'm like, how do you start? How do you not know to have those conversations?
It
Because
ain't
people
uncommon.
be, but usually if infidelity comes in places because somebody done slid into somebody's DM and sex is paramount. Just saying. So those conversations were had at some point to get to get the party going.
For some,
For
but
some,
but think about it. The conversations you're having as a dating individual are definitely going to be different than the conversations you have when you are deciding to marry and enter a
facts,
union with someone.
lifetime, and I do think people psych themselves out and give
Oh yeah.
themselves they tell themselves stories that'll be, oh, it'll be okay.
Oh,
It'll
absolutely.
be all right.
We
And
all
you're
do that
giving
in some
yourself
capacity.
unrealistic expectations.
Yeah,
Just like, yeah, very
but think
true.
about it. We all do that in some capacity in our life, right? In some
Hmm.
capacity, we all kind of be like, "Oh, okay, well, you know,
It'll
what
work.
did I say? It'll work.
It'll work
Yeah,
out.
it's
It'll
gonna
work
work."
itself out. No, it
The,
won't.
no,
Not
the
always,
rain,
people.
my ceiling's falling. My roof's
There's a
about to
whole
cave in.
It's gonna
It'll be
rain
all
on
right.
your head.
It's gonna be all right. Like, no, it's not gonna be all right. It's not gonna be all right.
Not
But
okay.
yeah, um another one is the lack of commitment, right?
That's a biggie.
And it can manifest itself in various ways.
Yes.
And I feel like lack of commitment is one of those sneaky silent
Mm.
issues, right?
'Cause you gotta get up and decide to be married every day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Every
Oh
day,
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for
And
sure.
the thing is, are you prioritizing your marriage? Are you
Mm.
prioritizing your partner? Are you still centered in self?
Or
Are
you
you
think it's just
married?
gonna run itself? Like, you think it's a Tesla and it can self-drive? 'Cause it
Right.
don't.
Are you
It
married
don't.
to single?
Woo! Talk about it.
Right? Are you
Talk about
neglecting
it.
issues that you know need to be worked on?
Mm.
Are you unwilling to make sacrifices and compromises?
Hello. Are you stonewalling your partner when they're trying to do these and have a communication about these
Mm-hmm.
things with you? And you
Right.
have now shown in your behavior, not your talk, but your actions, that your lack of commitment is there. Because you could say, yeah, I'm committed every day, but what do your actions say?
What are your actions? Because
Mm.
words are just words.
Don't talk about it, be about it.
Right. And I feel like that lack of dedication is what, like we talk about, like communication problems. Lack of commitment is also
Mm.
one of those things that over time will erode the fabric of a marriage, and then
Facts.
these other problems start to seep in.
For sure. For
Because
sure.
if there's a lack of commitment, I don't have to save money for us to buy a house. I'm
Right.
not thinking about us in that capacity.
I don't have to say for us to go on vacation. I'm gonna go on my boys trip again and again and again. Those types of things.
Right.
Like real talk. What are you doing to pour into or girls trip? I don't discriminate. What are you doing? I'm gonna just go to the spa every day. I know my husband wanted to go or my wife wanted to go and do this, but we had to save for it because we want to go to, I don't know, the Maldives. But I
Mm-hmm.
keep going on my girls or boys trips. And then you wonder why things don't materialize the way you think.
Listen,
What do you mean? She's still doing this, he's still doing this. It should work. Well, what are you doing? Have you prioritized it?
lack of commitment is one of those sneaky, silent, but deadly
Hmm.
causes, I feel like, because it is one of those things that you don't even really realize sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what
You
I'm
gotta
saying? Because
choose. You gotta
sometimes it's like the
choose.
little things. It's like the little things.
The little things
Like,
pile up to big things because it's
I'll
not
tell
the
you,
little things that it's not the always not always the big things that break up the marriage. It's the little things.
right. I can give you a good example. I saw this on TikTok where this lady was mad because she felt like her husband wasn't as committed to their relationship as she was.
Hmm.
Like he would come home, she would go out and bring him back food, right?
Hmm.
She'd be out all day, she'd bring him back something. Or she'd be out and she'd be like, oh, hey, I'm about to pick up something to eat. You want me to pick you up something?
Right.
He would go out, come back, have food just for himself.
Mm.
She'd be like, you ain't think about me? Oh, I was just ripping and running. I ain't,
Mm. Not the ripping and running.
I just had to grab something real quick. I thought you would
Mhm.
have ate already. But
That
you didn't
one.
even think to pick up a phone and call me
Right.
to ask me?
Because you still had to order.
Right.
Still had to order.
Like you didn't sit there and think like, damn, I'm about to order me something. Maybe she might be hungry.
Maybe. Possibly.
And then right. And then she started to say when she sat back, she started to notice things like this. Like that's small.
Yeah.
But then it started to snowball. Like, oh, this man never takes me into consideration.
Right. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
All the
Them rose
time.
colored that honeymoon period, once that shit is over, them rose colored glasses come off. It's a whole new world, Ariel.
Listen,
It is a whole new
a
world.
whole new
Oh,
world.
and I'm sorry, that's Aladdin. Wrong Disney
Whatever it
reference.
is.
Hmm.
And then incompatible. Damn, I just realized we had 60 minutes and we still got a half. We get in there, people.
We
Incompatibility. This is why we need our producer.
right.
Incompatibility.
To be like, speed it up, speed
Sometimes,
it up.
right. Sometimes people realize that they were fundamentally incompatible.
Yeah.
Lifestyle, personality, values, and it's
Hmm.
going to create an ongoing conflict and dissatisfaction. But I feel like this was something you knew before you got married and you decided to just make those red flags green.
Right. It said go. I will pass go. It was yellow. It was
It'll
yellow.
work itself out.
It'll be all right. It'll work out. It'll work out. I know the light was yellow and it was turning red, and I still went.
Right.
Just like we all know we've done. We see the light is yellow, and as soon as we go through, we can still see it turn red, but we still going.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it happens all the time. But trying to understand these causes can help couples realize hopefully earlier potential issues earlier and seek support and counseling. And now sometimes counseling works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I've had girlfriends where the counselor was like, "Y'all need to cut it, just
You need to cut
cut it. You need to
it.
cut it and just be done. Shit get off the pot, fish or cut bait, whatever the euphemism you want to use." Some folks are like, y'all need to divorce. Y'all need to go y'all separate ways, no matter what. So sometimes counseling is the confirmation of that, or it's, there's still a little bit there now. Maybe y'all can work on it. But you have to have all these things in play in a positive direction to understand if that's really going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And like we had said before, this is a deeply personal thing. And I think people, it's become more flippant these days. The 1 out of 2 marriages end in divorce. It used to be, you know, um, in their situation doing what they do. And you're like, I think I'm gonna try to make it work. But yeah, you should probably just walk away. Probably just walk away. And it causes you to realize it's a grieving situation. Some people don't realize how personal this is, and you think you can make light of it. But at the end of a divorce, it's you grieve. It's the death of your relationship. And people, I don't think, realize how deeply it can cut into you, and it may cause behavior that may be out of the norm for some folks while they go buck wild and they're like, oh, whatever, I'm happily divorced, I'm living my life, living la vida loca, and they're ready to go. So there are 5 stages of grief and divorce. They can gain insight into your transformative journey that a lot of individuals undergo, and leading from the initial shock of, oh my god, I'm getting divorced, and turmoil to a space of acceptance and healing. So it's an emotional journey. It definitely presents a profound sense of loss, and it's very, very similar to losing a loved one to death. And especially if you have to sit there and see the person, if you're in the midst of a divorce and you still got to look at that person every day, it's re injuring you. And it's like stabbing you over and over again for some people, depending on if that person has moved on and you have not. And it differs from person to person. Stage 1, shock and denial. You're trying to figure out what the hell just happened. How did I get here? You're hard to process. You're like, maybe there's this glimmer of hope it'll work. Maybe if I did this, and that's going into the next one. And then you're the denial is, you're like, well, maybe if we go back to counseling, like I mentioned. And it's a natural defense mechanism to have denial while you're going through this. There's defense mechanisms that your body may utilize to adjust to the shock. And it can show through, disbelief, emotional turmoil. For numbness, you could become emotionally detached, and because you go into another place of reality to deal with what's going on. Confusion, you're trying to understand what happened and accept the divorce, that you really are going to have to pull the trigger someday. Avoidance, that you're just like, no, I'm going to just la dee 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 dee, go on with my life and think everything's going to be okay. And it doesn't really happen. And then there's the other thing of shutting down, and you just want to protect your feelings, and people don't know, and you don't know how we're going to move forward with this, or if you can move forward. So you got to figure out, how do you want to process that? Because for denial, it can seem unhealthy. It can be a temporary buffer for some as you process this huge life change. So it kind of makes you wonder, how do you continue to move forward into the next stages? And I know we're at the hour and stuff, so maybe we need to do a part 2 and have just talking about grief and divorce. I don't know, Grief, what do you think?
I mean, we could go through the stages really quickly,
Mhm.
because these stages, like the next, we have anger. We all know what that means. We have
Yeah.
bargaining,
We all
which,
have bargaining. Everybody's like,
yeah,
"Well, God, if I do this, maybe if I stop watching I Love Lucy 10 times a day, maybe my husband or my wife will stay with me." You start
right,
brokering deals, or if there's more that you could have done to think about woulda, coulda, shoulda. The woulda, coulda, shouldas
right,
come into play.
yep,
It's crucial to approach the stage of realism, the if onlys, the what ifs. The what ifs can really kill you. The what ifs can be the death of you sometimes,
they will
because the
be the
way
death of
the
you.
amount of mental strain that you put on yourself to try to think
Mm-hmm.
what you could have done to save the marriage. You start blaming, or I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have gone on this girls trip. I shouldn't have bought that Maserati. You know. But then there's also the thing that you got to realize, you two are two separate people, and you have to acknowledge there are some things that are far beyond your control. Because if
Right,
that person has their own demons, if that person has already drifted and made the decision that they no longer want to be married, albeit they didn't inform you of this, then you kind of have to, there's nothing really you can do other than
Right.
accept it, acknowledge it, and accept it. But with that, stage 4, depression may set in. You're feeling
And we
profound
all
sense of
know what that
sadness.
is.
We all know what that is. It marks the end of a I mean, this is huge. Think about you. I mean, there's times where you're thinking about, I done spent how much money on this shit, and this is where we are. I done spent how much on this? You done bought your house, your picket fence, your dog, your cat, your llama, whatever, and you're like, this is the shit I'm dealing with now, and you get depressed about that. It's a huge
You
loss.
don't want to go
You know,
outside. You
right?
have changed your sleep,
Yes,
changing your
sleep
appetite.
patterns, everything. You lose your appetite. You don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
We all know, we've all touched upon depression, and
And
we may
unfortunately,
also,
some people, yeah, unfortunately, some people then turn to the reliance on substances like drugs
right,
and alcohol.
right, and it's just, unfortunately, we know you don't feel like doing much of anything. You feel like a bump in a log, and then despair, which is never a great. But then there's stage 5, where you let go and you accept. Now, understand that these stages do not happen back to back. You may be in those stages for years, months. It's definitely not a week, for sure, unless you are already on your way out. Accepting the divorce, fighting clarity amidst this change. Um, it doesn't mean that you're okay with the loss, but you've accepted this new reality that you
For
now
some
have to step
people,
into.
yeah, for some people, the act of divorce is the actual letting go and acceptance. I feel like for some people,
Yeah.
they went through the 5 stage, at least 4 of the stages of divorce grief while still married.
You know what? That
And
is
by
so
the
true.
time they decide to get the divorce, they have already let go and
Yeah.
accepted the fact that this is over and it's time to move on.
Which I
But
think is why some people have divorce parties.
yeah, yeah. And I think that that is why, even though you may let go and you may accept it, sometimes you may go back to the um the what ifs,
Yeah.
right? The what if I did this and what if I did that? Because you're out in
Mhm.
these streets and you see ain't shit out here.
Right.
Like
It's a
you,
cesspool, I
right.
hear.
You let go and you accept, but then you go through a bout of depression because you're lonely and you don't, you miss that companionship.
Yeah.
Or
I
if
think
the
it ebbs
person,
and flows.
it does. Or if
I
the
think it
person
ebbs and
cheated,
flows.
you're like, you're fine one day, and then the next day you see them out with their new boo, and you like, oh,
Yeah.
so that's what you do?
I
That's what
think
we
that's
doing?
I think that's one thing I don't think we touched upon, but I will touch upon it real quickly, because when you're going through these stages and then you see that other person has already moved on, hell, they
Mm-hmm.
probably moved on during the marriage, and then you
Yeah.
actually see it. It's one thing to be like, I think I'm okay, and then you see it in live and in your face. You can
Mm-hmm.
spiral. It causes people to spiral,
Yep.
and be like, oh my goodness. Or you see them and you're like, "Ooh, I'm so glad that you have that problem now and not me." It could go either way. It could go either way. Signs of acceptance kind of include being more mindful. You cope with the changes in a healthy way. You practice self-compassion, and we're big on self-care. You're tolerating the vulnerability that you now have because if you've been injured emotionally, of what you thought the dreams and hopes and all that other stuff was going to be. And then eventually feeling validated in your journey of healing, because all these things are processes and they take time. You can't, how someone else gets through divorce is not how you're going to get through divorce. There may be
Right.
similar situations, but I wouldn't, and then there's always, that once you let go and accept, and there's always people that are like maybe rooting for y'all that can
Yep.
maybe delay some of these things from coming to pass, because they've only seen one side and they're like, "Oh, we know you guys could be together," and you like, not if you knew what I knew.
Right.
Not if you knew what I knew, and that maybe make it easier for you to let go and accept.
Yep.
It's a process. It's a
It's
process.
definitely a process. And so with that, we're gonna go straight into our process, which is the last sip of tea for the day.
Uh-huh.
So we all know divorce can be deeply challenging. It can be a deeply challenging experience emotionally and mentally. And once you understand the 5 stages of divorce grief, the ones we just went through, the shock, the anger, the bargaining, the depression, and acceptance, it can provide you with a valuable insight into one's emotional journey, fostering greater awareness of self-compassion. It's essential to acknowledge and experience the full range of emotions.
Because it's full.
And seek help if you feel stuck. Consulting
Please
a psychologist or a therapist can offer deep self-awareness and valuable insight, aiding in a constructive new beginning. And that's the last of the tea.
All right now. So, as you know, we always thank you for joining us this week on Sipping Tea with Nat and Z. And you know, you can follow us on Instagram at sippingtea_Nat and Z_pod, and on Facebook under Sipping Tea Nat and Z to get info on our upcoming podcast topics and news. Thanks for listening, and catch us next episode where we get into the power of transparency, which probably should have been the case before they got divorced, because somebody wasn't being transparent with their stuff. But I digress. All right, y'all have a good week. Fun summer. All of you.